Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big bubble pump! And you hooked up! Holla! At the end of it! Woo, woo, woo! Cup of coffee in the big day.
It's Sunday night, baby. And you know what that means. Famcast Media and Blog Talk Radio probably bringing to you the latest edition of Working the Marks. And I am New Jersey's most handsome journalist, Fernando Uribe, and he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, the Santeria King himself, on Puerto Rican Independence Day, the PBR superstar.
There's no Puerto Rican independence.
PBR superstar Patrick Rivera. What's going on, PBR?
Chilling, man. Just enjoying a little Palo Santo. Got a little Palo Santo going on. You know, I love the smell of this stuff. I don't know if you're into that stuff. I don't know if that's a part like your Hispanicism or whatever it is. You know, like whatever it is you choose to do to be, you know, Hispanic. You know.
I just like pussy. That's my Hispanic.
Okay. You don't like sweep a coconut around your apartment or nothing.
No,
like
I'm good. I'm potpourri once in a while when I'm like Febreze or something. You know, ironing my shirt, ironing my Adam Cole shirt for the show. You know, maybe stuff like that.
Just made the list!
I can't see it. Like that shirt looks like it's shrinking.
It's baby right there.
It looks like the shirt's shrinking. I don't know what's going on.
Well, you know, listen, like Adam Cole? Oh, God help me, I tell you. Folks, welcome again to this edition of Working the Marks. Again, sharing is caring. Do share us on all of your social media platforms, of course, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Also, check us out on SoundCloud and Spotify. You can check out the best wrestling analysis every single week right here via Famcast Media.
Spreaker.
And Spreaker. Excuse me. Right here with Fernando and Patrick here on StreamYard via Facebook Live. And what's going on, PBR, bro? What's going on with the Marks here? Losing their minds lately about titles, stack cards, or lack thereof. What's going on, man?
It's the same old. I think it's a mixed bag. By the way, I'm having a wonderful Echinacea tea today right now here. My Grateful Dead mug. And just enjoying that along with broadcasting with you here live on Famcast Media. Maybe I should do this kind of voice, and it's been great. I could be a yacht rock DJ.
WAMBC.
WAMBC.
Little homage to classic 90s movie, bro. The Private Parts was classic. But Pat, let's get into the news here. Interesting enough, man. And I really want to get your take on this because it's fascinating. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, we saw that everybody who has a microphone or any access to social media has had something to say about the crowning of the new World Heavyweight Champion. Obviously, there needed to be a title on Monday Night Raw. Subsequently, we saw Seth Rollins win in a grueling tournament during the final against AJ Styles in Saudi Arabia at Night of Champions. But now Marks are kind of losing their minds because on Friday during SmackDown, it would seem that Asuka, the Raw Women's Champion, was bestowed the Women's Undisputed Championship, pretty much similar to Roman's current Undisputed title. And it kind of begs the question, Marks are losing their minds about, like, well, what does that mean now? What happens to Rhea Ripley, who is on Raw and is the current SmackDown Women's Champion? What happens to that title? I mean, is Vince back booking? Is Triple H acquiescing to Vince? What's going on, man?
First of all, I think for all the people that are complaining about the title and maybe wanting an old title to come back, you can buy those old titles. You don't need it right now. You have another title, and they're making another title that they could sell and that you can buy and that you're just going to complain about, and it's still going to be the title no matter what.
And then Marks will walk around buildings. Like
with the title, which, by the way, I got to tell you, all you Marks out there, all you people that walk around with your titles every time you go to these events and stuff, put it on the line. Put it on the line. You're going to walk around with the title, put it on the line, okay? I don't do that. I don't like doing that. Thankfully, you don't like doing that either, profe. I've been with you to a couple of events, and you know what?
You're smart.
You're smart. You're not totally embarrassing to go to an event with, and that's a good thing, okay? You're just a little bit embarrassing. But all in all, people are just making a big stink out of nothing, dude. The titles are going to be the titles. And the other thing with this, they're calling it the Undisputed Women's Championship, right? Yeah, they're doing that so you could tune in on Monday to see what's going to happen with Rhea's title. It's smart, man, and it's WWE at their best, doing exactly what they do. People complain, people tune in, it repeats, they buy merch, the wheel keeps on fucking turning.
No, absolutely. And I just think it's really funny because what this does, right, is kind of perpetuate the narrative that many marks that have their own podcast, right, whether on Twitter, StreamYard, or whatever else, YouTube, that will just go on the air and rant. And listen, to say nothing of the fact that we already know the guilty suspects, right? The Wrestling Observer Radio, Wrestling Observer Live, and the other shows. I mean, not that, listen, I think Keeping It 100 is more reputable. Even Cornette's show, I would say, is more reputable than Wrestling Observer Live. Even Wade Keller's show, I think, is more reputable as well. But it seems like they're all kind of divided about what this means with the titles. And to your point, I think, listen, we're going to keep watching. Yes, we're intrigued about what it means. But even the fans, like, listen, I'm just looking at some Twitter screenshots that some people sent me here, looking at like what happened Friday. Well, okay, so all of a sudden now, Rowdy Ronda Rousey on the mic, and Shayna Baszler challenged the NXT Women's Champions, Tag Team Champions, to now unify those titles. It almost seems like, wait a second, what are we doing here? Are we unifying the title? Like, are we taking the developmental women's tag titles and trying to unify them with the main roster titles? And some marks are losing their minds, bro.
Who cares? That's what I say. At the end of the day, they're making new matchups. They're bringing up younger people to work with more experienced people. I know you don't like Ronda. That's fine. But Ronda is a major talent. Ronda is somebody that draws people. She gets attention. She's got a big deal. She's the highest paid. At the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, it's usually Becky and merchandise and everything else that she does. But Ronda's an attraction, whether people like it or not. The fact that she's taking the time to team with Shayna, her friend, to work with younger talent, because Ronda calls her shot. There's a lot of other talent that kind of have to go with what they're booked to do, but Ronda does call her shot, similarly to Roman. And this has been reported by Billy Body, which, again, if anybody's out there, you're not a fan of like some of the stuff he says, that's fine. But as far as wrestling news is concerned, Billy Body's the most reliable guy. And he stated that Ronda has a similar deal to what Roman has, where, she has creative control of what she does. So, at the end of the day, Ronda could do a million other things. Ronda can make herself look like more of a star than what she already is. But the fact that Ronda's choosing to work with younger talent, choosing to get involved with people. I mean, the fact that she dropped the title to Liv Morgan, that was her decision. The stuff that she's doing, she's trying to help the girls out. She's trying to grow that division. And I think that people get a little too caught up in perhaps their dislike for her and don't really give her the credit that she deserves as far as what she's giving back to wrestling.
Pat, a good point there. Obviously, sort of expanding about Ronda's role and how relevant she remains. I know you do check out Billy Body's newsletter. A little bit more backstory about it seems like Ronda versus Becky is something we're yearning for. Should have happened a while back. It didn't. Kind of break down for our audience a little bit about the backstory, because there's a considerable backstory here as to why Ronda and Becky, literally two, hasn't happened. Obviously, we saw it in a triple threat form 4 years ago at WrestleMania 35 here in nearby MetLife Stadium. And listen, I was there for that. It was a privilege to be there for the last one-day WrestleMania that was like 9 hours long. Jesus Christ. But it just seems that like since then, obviously, I know she took some time off. She had a baby. She got back into shape, obviously. We know Becky obviously had a baby the next year. She was out for a while. She returned in 2021. But it seems like people are yearning for that, eventual Ronda and Becky showdown. Why hasn't it happened, bro?
Well, first, before I say anything else, for anybody who's listening to this show, is watching this show, check out lockbetting.com. Billy Body has his Patreon there, a lot of his stuff there. Got to give him a shout out for that. And you could check out great betting info there. I know you're a degenerate gambler, so you might want to take a look at that. He's got a great record and stuff like that. But aside from that, he also has the most reliable wrestling news, which we have said. So what he reported was that originally Ronda and Becky were supposed to work at WrestleMania, I believe in Hollywood. And that was being lined up for quite some time, for a year. And then in the build up to it, Ronda had made a comment about wrestling being fake. And I think this is actually leading into their main event, which you were at, the one at MetLife. So for that one, they were supposed to make it Becky versus Ronda 1-on-1. And what ended up happening was Charlotte got added in there because Ronda had made a comment to the effect of wrestling being fake, and Becky didn't like that. And Becky felt inclined to have to defend the business. But well, but it's a work. It's completely different, dude.
So she just phrased it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, you use the F word. It's, that's never going to be received very well. I think everybody knows what it is, but when you use that kind of language, you're going to have to expect like some sort of repercussions. So because of that, Becky had decided to go and, say stuff about Ronda. And I don't recall exactly what it was. I can't believe I'm flubbing it up right now. But it was some of the comments that she had made about Ronda not being there all the time and all this other stuff. It was something to that effect. I'll be honest that I wasn't prepared for this one. But what the situation was that they were supposed to work at that WrestleMania, and Becky had made a comment about Ronda that Ronda didn't like, and Ronda had made the wrestling, fake comment thing. And it was at one point discussed that they weren't going to work. So because of that, they had decided to put Charlotte in that match because Charlotte could kind of bridge it and she gets along with the both of them. So they were able to work together. The match happened. Ronda was supposed to go over, and they put Becky over last minute. So Becky goes over, huge win. All this stuff happens for her, right? So now they're talking again about doing it for WrestleMania in Hollywood. Right,
but wait, Pat. The one here in 2019, originally Ronda was supposed to go over.
Yeah, they were going to extend it. It was going to go like every WrestleMania until they got like a trilogy. That's basically what they were trying to do.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So
I just thought all the momentum Becky had from the previous year's SummerSlam and the way that the man gimmick had, I think, just exploded. It almost seemed like a foregone conclusion, like Becky was going to win. Like I think everybody walked into that building,
sure.
He's going to win tonight. Like, I get it. Charlotte is in there and Ronda, but I just get a sense that, I don't know. It just seemed like everybody was like, yeah, it's almost a foregone conclusion. Becky was going to win that night, but I could be wrong.
Well, whatever the situation was, like that's what they had planned. And again, plans change, things change, right? So because of that, they had ended up adjusting what that was going to be. And they were supposed to face each other again. And then the same thing happened. Becky went away. She came back. Ronda had made another comment about something. Becky had remarked about how she got in great shape on like other people and stuff like that, kind of talking about Ronda personally again. So Ronda dropped it and Ronda didn't want to work with her. And basically Ronda preferred to do what she was going to do. And Ronda was going to go over, but Ronda didn't care about that. She just didn't want to work with her. So she ended up doing something else. Now the hope is that they both have them on Raw. And I'm sorry for butchering this fucking story. I was not prepared to talk about this one. But now from what we understand, the reason why they're on Raw is to potentially create that matchup somewhere down the line. So they're trying to do it little by little. And obviously that's the big star attraction match that they want. Like there's a few of them, that one, Roman versus Rock, and at some point, we don't know what they're going to end up doing with Roman. Roman could keep the title another 2 fucking years for all we know. He could drop it to Cody and PA. Maybe CM Punk could come in, but, more on that later. But I just think that the situation with Ronda and Becky, it hasn't been a good one. They kind of agreed to shoot on each other a little bit. They had made comments that just did not resonate with them. They kind of took it a little bit, more offensively than what it was. And it kind of kept escalating, kind of similar to a certain guy from Texas and a Canadian. So these things happen, unfortunately. But again, you could say what you want to say about Ronda. I think the fact that she's choosing to work with younger talent is great.
No, listen, I think that's a great synopsis there. And again, Pat, I don't speak for the entire Mark community or smart community, but I think that part of my disenchantment, I think, with Ronda is that, we're going on 5 years now. And yes, there was a break in there for a certain amount of time, but I don't know, man. I just remember being in Philadelphia for the Royal Rumble in January 2018. Yes, he did.
Sorry. I'm sorry you were in Philadelphia.
I know. Yeah, I need I had to go to the urgent care. I got that there's 24/7 overnight urgent cares. I made sure to get a tetanus shot before I went to work the next day. But what was interesting was okay, there was a good response. I think the bigger pop that night was Asuka winning the Rumble, first ever women's Rumble. But sure, Ronda got a good pop, fine. And then at Mania when she teamed up with Kurt Angle, I don't know, man. I just think that over time, whether it's just like she's just not great on the mic. I remember being here at WrestleMania, and I get it. And part of me was like, it was funny. When I went with my cousin and a group of friends, as soon as I saw Joan Jett on the stage, I said, Ronda's losing tonight. That's it. They're performing her theme song. It's over. She's not going to win tonight. Guys, don't worry about it. You can rest assured, if someone's singing the opening entrance, it's over. That person's not going over. I can't remember. I know it's a sort of Mark conspiracy.
It's a Mark conspiracy.
But, bro, coincidentally, you have to kind of go back a few years to kind of find that.
CM Punk, Undertaker.
Yeah, Triple H, Triple H, Undertaker. I don't know.
Every time
Didn't Triple H get?
No, CM Punk, Undertaker.
Now CM Punk, Undertaker, Punk lost, but I'm talking about Triple H. Didn't Triple H when he wrestled Jericho? Didn't somebody play him out?
No.
Yeah, wasn't it Motorhead?
No, Jericho. No, Fozzy. I think played Jericho's song, "King of the World," right? Something like that. In 2002.
No. We're talking about like people playing them out to the ring, like they performed at WrestleMania. But I think, for that main event. Jeez, that's right. Okay.
2005, Motorhead performed for Triple H. He lost to Batista. I think 2001. I'm trying to remember. I think, the Motorhead again.
Wait, Rey Mysterio won. POD played him out.
2006. I think you have to kind of go back a while until you can find someone that, what I'm saying. But for the most part, yeah, you're right. It's probably a Mark conspiracy. But that night, I just knew, as soon as Joan Jett and the Black Hearts was on stage, I said, Ronda's losing. And I just remember the reception she got to the ring. And I get it. She was being the heel. I get all that, man. But I just think 5 years later, good for her. She's working with younger talent. She's an attraction. But, bro, she comes on TV. You give her a mic. You're like, oof. It's kind of like it's bathroom break time. It's sandwich time. I don't know, bro.
I think she gets her point across. No. I get what you're saying, but I think she gets her point across. And as far as the makeup is concerned, it's an homage to Black Swan. Yeah, but she could cut a better promo than Bret Hart, bro. She could cut a better promo, and she'll draw more people to watch her. So
that's true. That's true.
That, my friend, is undisputed.
That's true. That is undisputed.
Boom. But whatchamacallit? No, Ronda's good at what she does, dude. The fact that you're talking about her, the fact that people are talking about her, good or bad, is great. If she went out there and people had no response to her, that's a different fucking story. But people react, and that's important. Look at John Cena for all those years. People were so resistant to John Cena. They fucking booed the shit out of him. But, he was selling fucking shirts everywhere. He just kept getting over. And now, all of a sudden, the Marks fucking love him. You know what I'm saying? It's a different story. And getting back to your WrestleMania thing, the crowd was fucking exhausted, because that WrestleMania was super long.
Yep, I know. I was there. 9 hours. No, but Pat, to your point about Cena, you're right. I think that Cena became polarizing after the first year with the title. And I think that was maybe by design or whatever. But you're right. He was polarizing. He sold merch, gate. He became that attraction. I think that Vince knew, hey, here's my golden goose. I'm gonna milk every drop of juice from this lemon that I can. And he did for 15 years, basically. So I don't disagree with you on that about Cena. But the idea that I'm not ready to put Rousey in that category of, hey, that type of merch drawer that Cena was or that Becky is. I'm not ready to go there yet. I could be wrong, though.
Well, I think she is, based on the fact that she helped sell out a main event at WrestleMania like John Cena did. So I think that, for her to do that and for her to sell out a stadium like John Cena does, that puts her in that fucking category, man. Again, people don't have to like her. I understand it. I get it. I get why she might not be for some people. But the fact that people are talking about her, the fact that people are saying anything about her, good or bad, is great. But Pat, like that main event was going to sell out. That main event was going to make
make it anyway. Because if it was Becky and Charlotte,
no man, you needed a star, dude. She was the biggest star of the three in the match, bro. Becky became a big star after that. Do you think the average person walking down a fucking street knows who Ashley Flair is? No disrespect to her. Now they might. Now they might, but back then they didn't. They didn't know who Becky Lynch was.
But remember, take it back to the previous summer in 2018 at SummerSlam when she turned on Charlotte, and then for the rest of that year, she was building the man gimmick, the bloody nose. Right during that invasion angle with SmackDown, right? And like that's an iconic photo. That's an iconic pose of Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Like building that character, going into the Rumble, winning the Rumble. Like I just get a sense that like going into that meeting, I understand Ronda's role in it, but I think the way they were building Becky up, like the man, like the underdog story, winning the Rumble because she just lost to Asuka early in the evening, and then inserting herself as a substitute into the match, winning the Rumble, getting the chance to main event WrestleMania. I just get a sense that, like, if it was Becky and Charlotte, because that feud had started at SummerSlam, that still would have been the main event, I think.
No.
Okay.
It wouldn't have sold out a fucking stadium like it did. It wouldn't have sold out a stadium like it did. You needed Ronda Rousey. You needed that fucking star power for everyday fucking people, for casuals, for everybody to know about.
But Pat, the card sold out. Kofi
the main event is what sells it out. That was the main event. That was the one that had the most numbers, that had the most everything. They're not gonna make a lame duck feud the fucking main event. They're gonna make the one that has the most interaction, that people give a fuck about the most. That's gonna be the main event. And that one, and no offense to Bryan Danielson and Kofi, who had an amazing match. It was a great heel run for Danielson. It was a great face run for Kofi.
A double main event. It was literally a double main event that evening. Basically.
Okay, there is no such thing as a double main event. There's
a
pre-main event.
No.
There's a pre-main event and there's a main event. That's it. There's a pre-main event and there's a main event, and that's
it.
There's no double main event. Double main event is for fucking marketing. Are they having the match at the same time? If they were having the main event, two main events, two matches, two rings at the same exact fucking time, then that would make it a double main event.
That's what they said in Backlash Puerto Rico.
That's right. Not WrestleMania Backlash. Not WrestleMania Backlash. But
no. But they said that at Night of Champions, a triple main event, no less.
Okay, great. It's called fucking marketing. Again, it's impossible, and Mark's fucking fall for it. But realistically, if we're looking, Mr. Linguistics, if you really want to, get specific about it, double main event is two rings, two matches going on at the same exact time, and it's the last match on the fucking card.
That's a War Games.
That's a double main event. No. War Games is one match with fucking, 3 rings or 2 rings, right? No, it was World War III with the 3 rings. War Games was with the 2 rings. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Double main event. That's marketing. There's no such fucking thing. But anyways, getting back to what we were talking about, Ronda was a big part of that match. A big part of that match. And she had a great match when she came in at WrestleMania. The tag match was awesome. Okay. And aside from that, she's a fucking star. People don't have to like it. People could think she fucking sucks, but they're talking about her. They give a rat's ass about her. And in wrestling, that's fucking number one.
Yes. If you're talking about it, then guess what? You're remaining relevant. And I think that's a good point there. Let's switch gears here for a second, Pat. Other big news this week. Tony Khan and his weekly announcement, Adderall infused segment that he has.
I have a special announcement.
That's pretty much, it's Tony Khan right there.
He doesn't even fucking blink when he's talking. He's just like, we're going to be setting up a great card in Canada. And it's like, what the fuck?
And mind you, and again, I'm not saying I am like the end-all be-all about public speaking. I'm not saying that I've reinvented the craft. But I just think that he needs some work. And either the teleprompter's too high, or he's reading too intently, or he's either chopping up or he's mixing Adderall with cocaine. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem generic or fluid when he's doing these announcements.
Dude, he's super awkward. He's super awkward.
I get it. And you can't memorize all that information. I understand all that. Like, you can't just do it like off the top of your head. I understand all that. I don't know if you have to go back to cue cards or like I'm someone like, or like the teleprompter used to be slow. I don't have an easy answer about why these weekly announcements, it seems, from Tony Khan seem so awkward and they're like painful. It's almost like watching like New Jersey politicos or like operatives that we've learned or have come to know over the years that like in social situations, like it's creepy. It's almost like you look at Tony Khan and you're like, this guy should not be within 500 feet of a school. like the way he looks on camera. It's kind of creepy. But getting back to the announcement, this Saturday coming up, June the 17th, is the premiere of Collision on TV. We're getting live pro wrestling back on Saturday nights on TNT, obviously, and interesting. And Tony Khan did announce that the main event, really without any build, which is kind of funny because when Omos and Seth Rollins was booked last minute, every mark on the planet on social media almost had a meltdown about, oh my God, there's no build up for this match. There's no reason or rhyme or reason. Somehow FTR, the reigning and defending World Tag Team Champions of All Elite Wrestling, will team up with CM Punk, their good friend, against the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, Samoa Joe, my boy, the Switchblade, Jay White, and Super Juice Robinson. And that's the main event this Saturday for Collision. I get it, bro. You want to try to sell tickets, more on that later. I don't know. I'm kind of like, hey, pass me the pepper, dude, during dinner kind of feeling.
That's the perfect fucking segue into what I was about to say. I was actually watching some AEW this past week. So, every now and again.
What happened? You lost a bet?
No. Look. I'll be honest, man. Every now and again.
Some chick was over that liked AEW? Wow.
No. I was with a pal of mine, a wrestler, actually. There was another wrestler night. We were hanging out, having some drinks, playing Nintendo 64, playing No Mercy. I know there's a lot of No Mercy fans out there. Revenge, World Tour, all them wrestling games on N64 with his shit. Our guy Sean, he's watching as well, loves it as well. Big fan of it. Big fan. And I was hanging out, so we decided to watch it. And we started watching the gimmick. And I'll be honest, once you watch it and you don't really think about it, there's just so much stuff coming at you that it takes time for you to process how unbelievably shitty it is. You know what I'm saying? But if you go into it just watching it, it's it's okay. But then when you look at it afterwards, you're like, what the hell was all that? What just happened? So this is kind of how I feel about this main event of Collision, and I'm gonna make it an effort now here on working the marks with you here. I'm gonna make it an effort to not be so mean spirited towards AEW. I'm gonna look at AEW as what they are. And what AEW is an indie company with a primetime TV spot. That's the kind of audience that they're going for. They want that indie crowd, And to the point here from this great guy, Mr. Masterson, any wrestling fan is going to check it out. They're going to look at it. They're going to want to see. You know what I'm saying? They're going to want to see what's going on with it. Now you have Forbidden Door coming up. Anybody who knows anything about wrestling, a guy like me who's been following the career of Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, since the guy was wrestling in a mask in TWA, to see him take on Kazuchika Okada, it's going to be an amazing matchup. It's going to be an amazing matchup. And the crossover with New Japan is going to help them out a lot. And I think wrestling fans are going to come in. And I think that the numbers will go up a little bit, but I just think that eventually they're going to kind of get to a point where they might start to trend a little bit downward. But that being said, I'm not going to compare it to WWE. We know what WWE is. They're the best show in town. They have the numbers to prove it. They have everything to prove it. Even when it sucks, people can't stop talking about it. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing to them, okay? People are always going to be watching. You cry, you complain, you tune in and repeat. That's basically what you do. That's a T-shirt. We need that as a T-shirt, D. But, I the main event for the show, I get it. I understand. Good for Jay White. He gets to work with CM Punk. Juice, who I think is a really good character guy. His facial expressions, the way he talks. He's great, man. He's a real character. He's somebody that could stick out. And, Joe, he obviously has that history with CM Punk. This is a matchup that kind of scratches the belly of that fan base. All right. And here's another thing, too, for all the people that want to get caught up in the fact that this match doesn't make sense. There's no build. How many times have we seen on TV throughout the years, whether in ECW, WCW, or WWF, two guys go against each other with absolutely no build and they start taking on each other and then you build a feud? I don't know. It's fucking unusual, right? Fucking unusual, right?
Pat, you're right. The reason I brought up that premise was because I just think it's rich that you would see the vitriol and the outrage from the usual suspects on social media that opine about pro wrestling. that would say, oh my God, like this made no sense for Backlash. Why are we doing this on a PLE? This is ridiculous. But meanwhile, Tony Khan doesn't. Tony Khan is making a living on this, where he's just sort of like randomly putting matches together, which again, I'm looking forward to the match. I love Jay White. I'm a mark for him. Okay. I love him. You know, I think Juice Robinson, another great worker. Bro, that guy's got a lot of potential too. I think if you book him correctly. You know how much I love the reigning and defending AEW World Tag Team Champions. You know, right there, right in the back there. You know, I got the figurines that you gave me for Christmas, which I probably display.
No, it was for Hanukkah, bro. It was for the 6th night of Hanukkah.
The 6th night. Thank you. I mean, it's like, I get it. I just find it always funny when AEW marks don't complain about the very things that they watch every Monday and Friday that they live to bitch about. I just think it's fascinating.
I think we know by now how these marks are. I think we know that like a vast majority of the hardcore wrestling fans don't like WWE's practices, don't like anything WWE does. But here's the funny thing. The fact that Vince McMahon did what he had to do and kept the business going is what still gives us a business to bitch about and to talk about constantly. It's what gives us the ability to do this fucking dumb show, you know? And I mean that with all due respect when I say fucking dumb show. But, you know, I just think that, you know, Vince did exactly what he needed to do to keep the business alive. Fans hate him for it. Fans hate the WWE. They love AEW. They love the its indie sensibility. They love the fact that they could be a part of something, you know, when it starts. I mean, think about how many franchises have spawned in the subsequent 25 years that fans have just, you know, gotten with from day one. I mean, I'm a fan of New York City FC, you know. That's a team that, you know, they were founded in 2013 and they started playing in 2015, you know. And it was special to be a part of something from the beginning. And I think that for wrestling fans, a vast majority of them love being a part of AEW from the beginning and wanted to succeed. And I wanted to succeed because at the end of the day, they're employing wrestlers. They're keeping it alive. They're keeping it going for a younger generation. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but we have to be honest about the type of product that it is. It's not what WWE is. It's not a mainstream product. It's a niche product for a niche audience, and that's fine. And Tony can keep that going and can grow that crowd over time. You know, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but I do hope that they do succeed, you know. And Fernando, you can make a special announcement on the show as well. You know, wow, it's going to be a great time.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about sort of tickets in a little bit later, but it's funny about the way that the show. Obviously, listen, United Center not sold out yet for this Saturday. Still, you know, obviously the following weekend you have Dynamite in Canada. You're gonna have Collision. You're gonna have Forbidden Door the next night, and they're still in Canada for the rest of July until they get here in mid-July to Prudential Center in Newark. Which, by the way, I don't know, man. You know what? I'm gonna try to use my press credentials. I'd like to talk to Tony Khan. Could we, you know, maybe, you know, get some free tickets to Collision, or maybe, you know, do an interview with Tony Khan? I'd be down for that. I'd be down to party with him and drink Hennessy with that guy. He looks like he'll probably party all of us under the table.
Yeah, he's a regular old Hunter Biden, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, look, the Collision thing, it's kind of tough, man. I think that, you know, maybe fans have become disenchanted to some extent. Like, at least the casuals that could have come in, you know, which, you know, they have their base. They have the hardcore base that's always going to watch no matter what. Tony Khan could go out there, take a dump in the ring. You know, they could do whatever the fuck they want, and that crowd's always going to be there for them. But again, if you're trying to make this thing bigger, you know, I mean, you kind of want to grow your audience over time. And I don't know, maybe the you know, the interest for Punk, the intrigue for Punk is kind of worn out. Maybe fans don't want to see him there. Maybe fans got tired of it the first time around. Maybe they were just like, you know what, this isn't what it was. This wasn't his work in the WWE, and we want to see CM Punk in the biggest company in the biggest matches. I mean, let's think about the possibility of CM Punk and Roman Reigns. It's fucking huge. You know, you can sell out a stadium with that. You know, the kind of talents that they are, Paul Heyman, everybody involved, man, come on. That's a no-brainer. But, you know, I just think that if they don't do the Elite and them quickly and they keep wasting time with long-term storytelling, you're never going to really get anywhere, man. You know, like if this was a race, they'd be like all the way in the back of the fucking line. You know, if we're playing fucking Mario Kart, you know, they're in fucking 6th place and they got to catch up.
Yes.
You know, they're about to be 2 laps in and they got to catch up to fucking Princess Peach and fucking Mario at the top. You know what I'm saying? So what's going on here? What's going on? What are you going to do? You know, they got to figure something out. They got to grow that audience. They got to create intrigue and they got to do something hot. I'm curious to watch it. I'm going to be watching it. I'm sure you won't because you're a fucking, you know, jet setter on the weekends and all that stuff.
No, I'll be watching. I'll be watching it. I'll be ironing my clothes and I'll be watching it. And, you know, before going out. I mean, again, I listen, there's a dynamic to me because there's also a nostalgia component to what Collision represents for me because I remember, I mean, going back into like my college days and then in grad school, you know, going out at, you know, sometimes going out at night and on Saturdays. And hey, I would always have WCW Saturday night. And for better or for worse, whatever you thought of it, hey, you watched it if you were a fan because it was on. And I think that Tony Khan, I think, is banking on some of that nostalgia component. But I think also the fact of like, listen, maybe this is a way to draw in casuals. Because let's be honest, coming up tomorrow night, more than likely, the Denver Nuggets will win the NBA Finals. Coming up Tuesday night, tomorrow night. Also, the Las Vegas Golden Knights will beat the Miami Panthers and win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, after that, it's baseball, which is in high gear right now, obviously. And MLS is also in high gear as well. Listen, maybe it's something different to watch on Saturday nights other than like streaming or anything else. I think it's a smart way to kind of pull in some casuals, pull in some intrigue. But I just don't know, man, if it's going to be enough because to your point about Punk, and Jim Cornette had a really, I'm just looking at my notes here. Cornette had a really good point this week when he talked about whether or not Punk is going to be enough to push ticket sales. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, whether it's for the Collision premiere, whether it's for Forbidden Door, whether eventually it's for All In Wembley Stadium in August, whether it's All Out in Chicago the next week. I think a lot remains to be seen about whether that audience is experiencing some Phil Brooks fatigue. And I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. And I think Cornette was like, well, and we all know where Cornette stands, for example, where he hates the EVPs, right? He hates the Buckaroos. He hates Olivier. So he's always going to look at them negatively and say, well, it's these guys that don't know how to behave in the workplace that's making the workplace uncomfortable for Phil Brooks. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see how the fan base reacts to him in Chicago. You would think he's going to get a pop there. Maybe not August 2021 pop for the second episode of Rampage and the first dance, but maybe close. I don't know.
I definitely think that Punk's going to get a big pop in Chicago because he's in Chicago. The interest is there as far as it goes with like the core audience tuning back. But like, bro, if you're not going to do them in the elite or you're not going to do something hot, nobody's going to fucking care. And I hate this wait and see approach with them. This has been like their problem since day one. I mean, we could go back and we've talked about it on this show, which you could check out some of our old episodes as well. If you need some ASMR or something, you can listen to me and the professor's voice. It's very soothing. And, you know, we've talked about it before where like, you know, they're in a situation where they can't keep affording to wait. They're not in a position where they can do long-term storytelling for like a fucking year. Like, no, man, you need to make that shit work. You need to make it hot while you have it. Otherwise, you're going to do some TNA shit, you know? And no offense to TNA, they're a good product, but when they had all these superstars and all these stars that were there, they didn't really exactly do the best things that they could have done, you know? And I think they played to a lot of the politics of what was going on there, and it didn't really work out. You know, if you're not going to do the Elite against CM Punk, if you're not going to do Kenny Omega against CM Punk, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You need to do something hot to get the interest back again, because obviously the interest has dwindled. And it's obvious. It's obvious. It's in every metric. And look, I know you got a lot of pals that watch it and stuff like that, maybe former classmates, students, all this other stuff, people that you know. But the fact is the numbers are down. They're not what they could be. They're not what they could be. So I don't know what's going on. And as far as, you know, we had also talked about the TV deal. Just a quick sidebar. It's kind of associated with this. You know, maybe Tony Khan's not really concerned with the TV. Maybe Tony Khan is just waiting to go streaming because all these streaming services are desperate for live sports content. And even though I know a lot of people say, well, it's wrestling, it's live sports content. And people want to stream it, and people want to make money with subscriptions for these types of things. They know that there's going to be a rabid fan base that's coming with it. It's pretty fucking evident if you type in hashtag wrestling Twitter on Twitter. This is something that could work out in their favor, and I think that this is something that could work out in Tony Khan's favor. So let's see where they go between now and then, but I really feel like they have to do something hot, man, if they really want to take advantage of this while they have Punk.
I agree. Speaking of streaks, and obviously a number that matters, Gunther, I'll try to do my best to pay homage to Samantha Irvin, who I think is a national treasure when it comes to announcing anybody. But let me tell you, Gunther on his Twitter feed today posted a picture of him holding a cigar, having what I think is a nice glass of orange juice with a bottle of champagne, saying 365 as his streak as the reigning and defending Intercontinental Champion.
Has he beaten? Has he beaten?
It's reached the full 365 days now. So Gunther is one of the longest reigning, I think. I'm not sure if he's even Honky Tonk Man neighborhood yet. No, I don't think so. I think it might be.
You think they're trying to get rid of Honk's record?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm just sort of looking at the, longest Intercontinental Champion reign of all time, and I believe that it's still. I mean, I could tell you right now, but according to the reigns here, and I just sort of did a quick search, but I'm looking at. Let me see here. I think
Chris Jericho says that where the Honky Tonk Man holds the longest reign, 454 days.
Yes, so I think he still has to approach the Don Morocco, which is at 384, and then after that is Macho Man Randy Savage, 414 days, and then it's Pedro Morales with 424 days.
Why do they keep fucking with Pedro, bro?
What's that?
Why do they keep fucking with Pedro's records, man?
Well, I mean, he's gonna be, no, Pat. I was just saying that obviously today Gunther on his Twitter feed celebrated with a cigar and a glass of orange juice, but obviously his Twitter feed, a bottle of champagne commemorates that he is now at 365 days, a full calendar year, as the reigning and defending Intercontinental Champion, representing Imperium. Gunther is now, I believe, at number 5, approaching Don Morocco at 384. Then Macho Man Randy Savage at 414. Pedro Morales, the pride of Puerto Rico, at 424. And certainly the Honky Tonk Man at 454 days. Congratulations to Gunther. I mean, an impressive run as the Intercontinental Champion.
Sorry, I had to do my shit, Honky Tonk Man. Man, Gunther's a star, dude. Gunther he's money, man. He's one of these guys that just really understood what the assignment was and fucking aced it. And I'm really, really, really enjoying his upward trajectory. I think he's a top-level talent. I'd like to see more from him in terms of the personality, but as a villain, bro, he's fantastic. He's everything you really need. The character
work has been good. I think for what Imperium is, I think that's good character work. I think that faction is sort of an homage to hey, they treat wrestling as a sport. The mat is sacred, that Eastern European commitment to pro wrestling. I think it's, commendable. Obviously, I think that's the gimmick. But I would also argue, too, I think to your point about Gunther, and bro, if you look at this guy, how committed he's become to the craft. I mean, you look at him in NXT UK, sort of like this imposing bully that you would run into in 8th grade, right? Like the physique, he just looked menacing. And he slimmed down, hit the gym, did whatever training regimen you had to, CrossFit, whatever the hell it was. He slimmed down, got shredded, but it didn't take away from his effectiveness in the ring. He's still crisp. He's a guy that's believable. He's a guy that when he's chopping you, I know it looks like intentional, like he wants to hurt you, but like that's the realism I think that makes Gunther's character compelling and like enjoyable to watch. That's just for me. That's for me as a smart bro, but for you as a worker, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think he's fantastic, man. I think that he's a guy that's very believable. It's an easy sell. Anybody could look at him without fucking knowing a thing about wrestling and be like, wow, this guy's serious. He looks like an ass kicker. Like he's a main event level talent. I hope someday, somewhere down the line, we get to see him and Braun Breaker. I think that would be a really, really, really great matchup. Braun Breaker, obviously, his stars rising. He called out Seth Rollins, the world heavyweight champion, and challenged him to a match. So, Monday between that, Rhea's title. I mean, those are some interesting reasons to want to watch Monday Night Raw. So let's see what happens with that. But yeah, man, I'm very excited to see what Gunther's going to do. I think he's a top level talent, and he's a guy that could be a Brock Lesnar type of dude, like he looks legitimate. He is a pro wrestling version of Brock Lesnar. Obviously, everybody knows Brock Lesnar's background's super legitimate, but Gunther could be that big bully, that big bad guy, that final boss that they need. And, it's only a matter of time before Roman turns face. Somebody has to take that spot. And I think he's the most believable guy, and he's got youth on his side. And I'm excited to see where he goes. But I would like to see a little bit more from him, promo wise and certain things. Sure. So let's see where he goes, Sure.
I mean, I got to tell you, obviously early this year at the Rumble, we kind of had an idea that, Cody being number 30, coming in, winning the Rumble, like that was sort of, part of the storyline to go into WrestleMania. But bro, when Gunther drew number 1 and he lasted all the way to the end, part of me was like, really? Does Cody have to win tonight, bro? I kind of like to see Gunther win. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, it's one of those, like, you draw number 1 and you last at the end. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, but you got to sell your main event, man. You got to sell your fucking main event, man.
No, of course. But I'm just saying, like, bro, you watch it, you're like, bro, guy was in there for over an hour, and like just an amazing worker. I think the sky's the limit for Gunther, excuse me. And we'll see where he goes, obviously, as his reign continues as the Intercontinental. We'll see how far it goes. If he eventually does break any of the guys I just mentioned, the Magnificent One, Don Morocco, Pedro Morales, Macho Man Randy Savage, or eventually the Honky Tonk. We'll see. Other interesting news this week, though, Pat. This
trying to do my Jack Nicholson face. Little Jack Nicholson.
This past Wednesday, fresh off of his win at Double or Nothing, the reigning and defending AEW World Heavyweight Champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman came out and said he was bored and he just needs some competition. Sure enough, baby, Adam Cole's music blasted in the arena. Everybody lost their mind. All 500 people lost their mind when you hear it's all about the boom. And I got to say, though, for as much as you would like to rag on Chiquitin held his own, bro. And that promo exchange with the AEW World Champion, in this broadcast journalist opinion.
I do not rag on him, okay? I just kind of point out some obvious things about what it is that he's trying to do, his appearance and some things. Look, I think for what AEW is trying to do, boom, you need an explosion for that. I've been saying it. They're totally missing out with that shit with the song. Like at the beginning, the first boom, there should be a fucking explosion. Vince would have done that. Yeah, we need a fucking explosion at the beginning, pal, when it says boom.
Vince didn't want to keep him, so hey, what can you do?
Well, it's not that Vince didn't want to keep him. I think he wanted to go somewhere else. I think he had an option that suited him better. Plus, I think he saw what the situation was with him for the future, and it wasn't really way off, man. I mean, he's a guy that unfortunately can't really last the long haul. He's got some health issues, and I hope he gets better. I hope that he's able to come back and work. But for me, I look at him and I see a sympathetic baby face. I thought this segment was excellent. I thought MJF did exactly what he needed to do as a heel. He scratched that crowd's belly with all the references and all the things. All the marks had a bunch of wet spots in their fucking skivvies. And, it was exactly what it needed to be. Everybody was verklempt, and, he did what he had to do, MJF, to get that over. And Adam Cole came off like a baby face. He was a 2023 baby face, but he was a baby face with the promo, and it worked excellently. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to that just for the sake of the match. But I do genuinely feel that is not the matchup that they should be having now. I think that you have to have CM Punk and fucking MJF again. You got to put the title on Punk and try and do something with that again. But that's not going to happen, and I think Tony Khan's going to have this match instead.
Patrick, it's not going to happen because CM Punk will be in Calgary, Alberta, Canada during Collision, as he will be. Here's a prediction from everyone's favorite broadcast journalist. He will be in the finals and will be the 2023 winner of the Owen Hart.
It's going to be him and Samoa Joe in the final
Royal Cup tournament. And in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, he'll win the cup. FTR will go to the ring. They'll give him a hero's welcome the way they did when Brett won the title in WrestleMania 10 in Madison Square Garden in 1994. On his shoulders. And in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, arguably the wrestling capital of the world, CM Punk will stand victorious with Dr. Martha Hart, the widow of Owen Hart. They're receiving the Owen Hart Memorial Invitational Cup Tournament Championship. I think it'll be a glorious day in professional wrestling.
Wow.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
I have never seen you that excited. And I've hung out with you during football season, and I've never seen you that excited.
And Devils games.
Yes, and Devils games as well. But, I mean, we're usually half in the bag, just like everybody else is by then, so everything's fucking awesome. But, I could see that happening. I could see them doing it with Samoa Joe. That would be something good. Maybe that's something he wants to do. We don't know. But I think you got to put the title on him. You got to make him the star of the fucking show. The MJF thing, it hasn't really worked out as much as they've wanted it to. Again, I just don't think he really cares about that. I think he's just going to just keep booking what he wants to book. And he's going to keep satisfying that audience. And he's not going to do the thing that's going to draw more people. Fucking A, bro. It's his money. Live and let live, right?
Yeah, it's nice to be rich. When you can just have an ever-flowing revenue stream, and whether you're doing bad gates, not great ratings, not selling out tickets, more on that later, it just seems like Tony Khan is oblivious to the metrics that matter to business. Like, think about 30 plus years ago. Okay, this was the end-all be-all for Vince McMahon. Right. And not to sort of drop the past here, but when you go and watch the AEW biographies or the rivalries or whatever documentaries, which are great, by the way, folks, now that it's the summer, if you haven't seen them, they're on replay. Obviously,
you mean WWF or WWE because you said AEW?
No. I'm saying is like if you watch,
the biographies, the A&E, the A&E. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's A&E. And okay. I have to tell you, like, this is where you have anyone that's cognitively, I think, stable can realize that you have to give Vince McMahon so many flowers because this was the end-all be-all for Vince. Like, he took all of his money, put it into a pool and said, I got to make it or I'm going to lose it. And he did. He banked everything on WrestleMania 1 in Madison Square Garden, kind of pay-per-view, closed circuit, whatever. It was on in movie theaters, closed circuit, whatever. And he built an empire of pay-per-view since then. Like, that's why... And again, you don't need a PhD or an MBA in business to understand like how commendable and admirable that was from a business perspective, because Vince didn't have any other revenue stream. Like, that was end all be all. And guess what? You roll the dice, and that's why he's a smart businessman 40 years later. You say what you want about whether or not you haven't like what Vince books or who he pushes or what merch he sells or who he does business with, whatever. The point is that like, that's the model of someone that understands the urgency of business.
Acknowledge me.
And Tony Khan doesn't. Listen, the Jaguars are going to get a new stadium in 4 years. He can't sell out the current one, much less the future one that the Jaguars are going to play in 2028 or whatever. Okay. The only time that ballpark will ever be full is when it hosts a Super Bowl because it's in Florida and they tend to, host Super Bowls because of the weather. Other than that, Tony Khan, I think he's just sort of operating this business on like, well, I'm making money, I'm drawing some gate, people are buying merch, I'm getting a new TV deal, whatever. Again, I just think that I don't look at Khan seriously as a business person, because I think that if he was only living and breathing on AEW, I think there'd be much more urgency the way he works, and the way he books, and the way he markets. But there is no urgency. He knows that he can fall back tomorrow. AEW, again, I haven't looked at the books. AEW could be in the red for the next 5 years. It's not going to matter. He's making money hand over fist because of his father, those investments with the football club in Europe, and of course the Jaguars. I don't know, man. I just think that there's no urgency with Tony Khan business-wise, and it shows because it trickles down to everything else.
Absolutely. And just as you said, you don't need a PhD. You don't need to play in the NBA. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. And by the way, Mr. PhD, I'm still waiting for that prescription, okay? You're a fucking doctor. You want to talk about being a farce. You're a fucking doctor. I've been asking you for a prescription for a while, and I haven't gotten it. And then you give me this fucking whole line about how you're not one of those doctors. Bullshit. You're a doctor, dude. You got a prescription pad. You got them fancy books back there. Picture you and Ric Flair.
I can write you a really nice essay about how to cure your condition or whatever it is that's bothering you, whatever ailment's bothering you. I can write you a hell of an essay. Trust me.
You could write me an essay. You could write me a Vato Loco. You could write me a Way. You could write me whatever you want to write. Okay. I want that prescription. It's right behind you. Okay. But to your point, I don't understand what he's doing. I don't understand what he's doing. And I actually, I'll take that back. I do, because again, he's playing to that audience. And to your point, he doesn't have anything to lose, man. Vince had everything to lose if WrestleMania didn't work out. That was it. He was fucked. He was in the red going into WrestleMania. And the fact that it worked out, the fact that everything went down, is the fact that we have a fucking business to even talk about anymore. Or at all, excuse me. But, Tony Khan does not have that urgency, because Tony Khan, and I'm sure he's not complaining about it, and I wouldn't, grew up comfortable. Tony Khan never had to worry about, what he was going to eat or what his parents were going to eat or any of that other shit. He never had to worry about any of that shit. Vince McMahon had a very rough life, okay? For those of you people who like to do your research, Vince McMahon had a very rough life. You could look all that stuff up. It's detailed in a book by Mike Mooneyham called Sex, Lies, and Headlocks. Great book, given to us by a friend to the show, Jimmy Betts. Jimmy Betts out there in Weehawken on Highwood Avenue. But he in that book he details a lot of stuff, man. And he talks about how Vince had a really fucked up upbringing, and how he didn't meet his father until much later on in his life, and he grew up with his mother in a trailer park in North Carolina, getting his ass kicked by his stepfather. That kind of put the urgency in him, man. Vince had a really messed up life, and Vince believed in himself. He bet on himself, and the fact that he did is the reason we have a business at all. Tony Khan, I don't think ever had to deal with that. And I think that for Tony Khan, this is a passion project. And sometimes, for better or worse, when you have a passion project, you tend to be a little emotional, and you don't tend to be objective, and you might not make the best decisions that you need to make. And I think maybe Tony Khan is in that position now, because hell, we all huff and puff and stuff like that on these shows. But I'm sure if we had that kind of money and we could bankroll a wrestling company, we'd probably be booking some pretty far out shit too. I don't know if everybody would have the wherewithal, unless you've been in the business and you're familiarized with how things work, So he's a fan who had the opportunity to do that. But again, I'm going to give him the credit for the fact that this dude is employing people. He's putting on a wrestling product. He's keeping it alive. And younger kids in this new generation are going to have something like that. They want to have their second attitude era. They want to see this kind of stuff, the stuff that we saw, because we saw the peak of wrestling. So let's see where it goes. I hope he really makes the better decision, but a lot of dominoes have to fall. And, I think the forecast for this company is going to look different in a year.
Absolutely. Speaking about the forecast of a company looking differently, Patrick, this past week on Dark Side of the Ring on Vice, good episode with Magnum TA, really highlighting I think one of the more tragic stories in pro wrestling, where this was a guy that during that period in the mid to late 80s, where Jim Crockett Promotions knew that, listen, they knew what Vince McMahon was doing nationally. Vince was the king of pro wrestling. He had taken over territories. He had brought wrestling into syndication. He was developing more pay-per-views, obviously. And, aside from Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and the Horsemen, and certainly Nikita Koloff, who was a rising star, Magnum TA checked off a lot of boxes, and they looked at him as, hey, you know what? This is a guy who, if we're going to put the world title on him, he could kind of be that. Again, no one was going to match Hulk Hogan in the mid-'80s. Nobody. But I think from it was, centered around the Mid-Atlantic region and the southern part of the United States, Crockett thought that, hey, Magnum TA could help maybe elevate us more. Obviously, we knew what they were doing during the summer season, during the Great American Bash. It was a whole summer of tours. They toured, there were some stadiums, the Orange Bowl and some other stadiums too. And they felt that Magnum TA was going to be that guy that hopefully was going to maybe get him on a national stage. Obviously, not maybe near Vince McMahon, but I think at the same token, to be like another alternative to WWF at the time. And obviously, we all know what happened. Magnum TA leaving a house show, driving in the rain after just defeating gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, sideswiped. It was heartbreaking. He was literally 5 minutes from his house, and he sideswiped a telephone pole. The jaws of life were required to take him out. He experienced some paralysis. And what was interesting about, again, this is 1986. This is way pre-internet. All you had was pretty much local news and newspapers, and you had to keep kayfabe alive. And you saw things like, hey, Dusty Rhodes went around to the guys in the locker room saying, listen, because of obviously, we know what the pay scales were, and obviously no health insurance, this and that. If you're not wrestling, you're not earning. Dusty was able to get, along with Ric Flair, to get the guys to give a certain percentage of each week's checks to send them, and Jim Crockett would match that amount and send them to Magnum in the hospital. They had to keep kayfabe alive. Like in the middle of the night, they had to have the Horsemen because they all loved Magnum TA. He was a locker room favorite for everybody. They had to do in the middle of the night, have Ric Flair and the Horsemen come visit Magnum when he was still on a ventilator, and Ric Flair putting the belt on him and talking to him. And you saw the emotion with people that just, again, you looked at Magnum TA to see where he is now. Obviously, we saw him recover in 1987, going down to ringside to accompany Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff during the Jim Crockett Tag Team Tournament Cup Final. You saw him still be somewhat mobile. Really an example of what could have been in pro wrestling. I think that's the best way to define Magnum TA, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He was a mega talented guy. He's another, sad story from the business. A dude that I think could have been a very, very big star, maybe could have even been on par with Hogan. We don't know, man. For the Podunk wrestling down there, he was fucking awesome. Yeah. And, he was a big star over there. And it would have been nice to see him, develop, and maybe become that big fucking star. But unfortunately, those types of things, man, it's hard to bounce back from that. And for me, it's another one of the tragedies of wrestling, man.
But and unfortunately, again, the next few weeks doesn't get any better on Dark Side of the Ring. At least to some extent, there was somewhat of a happy ending for Magnum TA. Like, he's alive. He's happy to be alive. He still goes to shows. He still mentors a lot of young wrestlers on the independent scene. And he talks to them. Obviously, he goes to a lot of indie shows still, not just for autographs and, gimmicks and everything else, but he tries to be, somewhat helpful to rising stars. And, again, it's one of those things. If you're telling me Magnum was a drinker and a drugger, he wasn't. He was a guy who liked to party, but, driving home in the rain for having just beaten gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, and again, just 5 minutes from his house. My God, you want to talk about bad luck. But the next few weeks on Dark Side isn't going to be any better, man. We have the tragedy of Adrian Adonis coming up this Tuesday, to be followed by Doink the Clown, Matt Bourne, then the Junkyard Dog. It's, again, man, I know you don't like the show. It's very introspective to kind of understand what was going on in the business for us.
It's fucking depressing, man. It's super fucking depressing to watch,
No, it is. It is. But it also gives us, I think it's very introspective in the sense for us that don't know about the business. One thing is what we're learning now and what wrestlers on the independent scene are living through now as opposed to 10 years ago, 20, even 30 years ago. And I think that, unfortunately, the next 3 episodes of Adrian Adonis, Doink the Clown, a.k.a. Matt Bourne, and the Junkyard Dog, I think, listen, they're going to be cautionary tales. I think they're going to be educational tales, but they're just going to be sad tales too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, and look, at the end of the day, there's a desire for it. These people want to make it. People want to be involved. And in a way, it kind of keeps some of these wrestlers, relevant. And, it kind of keeps them going. So in that sense, I guess it works. But again, it's just something not for me. It's too much of a fucking Debbie Downer. Plus, I know all this shit already. What the fuck do I need to watch it for? I'm like Pee-wee at the end of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I lived it, That's me, man. I fucking lived it.
I'm with you.
It's old news.
Listen, I'm a fan of the show. I think what Vice has tapped into as a resource, I think has been very, very educational. Not just about pro wrestling. I mean, again, you mentioned it's not for you, but the Dark Side of the 90s, I think, was a very informative series. And now coming up in July, they're premiering Dark Side of the 2000s. And bro, if you look at that episode list, holy shit. Like, there is everything from, Baywatch to AOL to Paris Hilton to Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson to a lot of shit in the 2000s, like the drama behind TRL on MTV. Again, if you like that sort of stuff and it's introspective and it's educational, and again, bro, listen, I'm a history educator. Like, I love history. I could read about history, watch about history like all day. So to me, to use your quote, it tickles my belly because it's stuff that, hey, you're right, we did live it. But I think it's kind of good to sort of rewatch it and say, wow, now that we've lived it and we're a little older and wiser, I just think it's interesting television. I think Vice has really tapped into a good resource, at least for me, man.
Yeah, no, man. And like I said, it's cool because, it's more content for people on wrestling. Again, it keeps the business going. Now when these autograph signings come up and, some of the people that they do shows on that are still alive, they might get a little bump in their fucking in their gimmick lines. So, it works out well in that sense. But again, for me, I'm not really one to just recant sad stories. So, but, hey, man. It's all good. From the Dungeon Podcast there with Stu Hart says Vice is cheap heat. Yeah.
I mean, listen.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And I think that Vice has really tapped into an audience that likes certain nostalgia. Again, not just pro wrestling. I'm talking about like Dark Side of Football, Dark Side of Comedy, Dark Side of the 90s, Dark Side of the 2000s. I think that for those of us that watch, because, for example, case in point, like the Dark Side of Comedy, whether you're reliving Andrew Dice's Clay story, or unfortunately you're reliving Chris Farley's story, or you're reliving other artists, I think that it's, to some extent, I think a lot of this is cautionary. And I think that can be beneficial. At least that's how I look at those type of series. The same thing with Dark Side of the 2000s. Like, it's really funny, man. 20 years ago, as the internet was still in its infancy, we did not have social media yet. We were just getting into the social media, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg, that fucking fascist piece of shit.
Take it easy, man. It's a family show.
Sorry about that. My bad. When he created the Facebook at Harvard, and then subsequently we all saw the Social Network movie in 2010. We all saw what a scumbag he was with his business partner. I mean, we saw, again, the birth of social media. We saw Friendster before that. I'm sorry, MySpace, then Friendster, then Facebook, then Twitter, then Instagram, and then obviously everything we've seen since. We've seen the Chinese technological infiltration tool, TikTok. We've seen.
All right. Keep your fucking conspiracies for your other show. All right, man. Come on. Let's just talk about it.
And I just think it's interesting. Like, again, these series really, I think, give us a perspective of stuff that, yes, you're right, we lived it. Whether it's pro wrestling, whether it's 2000, the Y2K hysteria, right, and everything else. I just think you're right. It's good content, but I think it's also informative and educational too, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I tell you what, I would tune in if they did like a Dark Side of Richard Grieco or like a Dark Side of Pauly Shore. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tune in, bro. When he was on 21 Jump Street and then Booker, bro, I'm sorry, that show, I don't know what happened. That show should have been bigger. I can't explain.
He was like a hybrid between like John Stamos and Mickey Rourke. It was like if you combine like two of their elements, you would get Richard Grieco. Like that's basically what it was.
And mind you, that was still a time where, bro, like Luke Perry, Jason Priestley, the sideburns, the badass look, like it was weird. Why Richard Grieco never blew up? Like he should have, even with the spinoff. Which, by the way,
he took Johnny Depp's spot, and it wasn't happening.
True. By the way, I'll die in a hell for anyone that ever goes on Pluto or I believe Tubi, which is free on most smart TV apps stores. If you watch the only season of Booker, not a bad show, man. Not a bad show. It's sort of in line with what 21 Jump Street was, and as that was ending, it wasn't a bad show. I think if you watch it, I think you'll like. Same thing with New York Undercover, which I know.
I was on that show.
That was awesome.
I was an extra on that show when I was a kid. Yeah, my parents too. That was fucking great. You know, I had a blast on that.
It's those type of shows that's weird. Like I think you're right. There was a dark side of why the Facts of Life didn't go longer.
dark side of Todd Bridges, or like dark side of Different Strokes.
Gina Plato, God rest her soul. I mean, stuff like that.
That would be fucking cool to see, folks. This is the kind of content you're gonna get here on Working the Marks. We're talking about Richard Grieco. We've literally done a fucking career retrospective almost on Richard Grieco here. So this is the fine content you'll get here on Working the Marks, people.
Absolutely. Patrick, our main event topic this week.
It's not a double main event topic.
No, it's only a single main event.
Okay, just checking.
I just gotta say, man, ticket sales spell doom for AEW right now. Some numbers here that I think that should really concern fans. Obviously, leading up to this Saturday, June 17th, the debut of AEW Collision at the United Center, home of the NBA's Chicago Bulls and the NHL's Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, this isn't August 2021 anymore. That building was sold to the rafters. As Gorilla Monsoon would say, the SRO signs, the standing room only, went out a week ago. Not the case right now for Saturday. Only 8,200 tickets sold for a building that I think approximately is going to hold somewhere between 17 and change.
That's a current number? That's an updated number?
I believe so, yes. Okay. Yes. And I got to tell you, I think that if you're Tony Khan, again, we don't know what's going on in Chicago right now. Maybe at Jersey Mike's Subway sandwich stores, maybe they're giving away tickets like they did it in Las Vegas. Hey, buy us a Jersey sub and get 2 tickets to Collision. Buy a soft drink, get a merch. I don't know. Bro, that's a concern. We're looking at Forbidden Door, which is only literally 8 days later. And we're talking about, I believe, 12,000 seats. And arguably, I mean, we're talking about potentially, right now, 12,958 seats, I think, have been sold for Forbidden Door. And arguably, we're talking about a potential double main event. Will Ospreay challenging Kenny Omega for the New Japan IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. And obviously, we know Okada and Danielson will be the second half of the double main event. I would think, bro, that in itself would help sell out that building, along with the rest of what you would think is the crossover between New Japan and All Elite Wrestling. But first things first, Collision, 8,200 seats for a building that, again, 2 summers ago, there were people, I think, willing to donate an organ to get into the United Center in August of 2021. That's not the case anymore, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just think that, a lot of the shine is kind of gone, dude. I think they're at the point now where it's like they gotta do something hot, man. They gotta pick it back up again. And I'm honestly not surprised that they're not doing the kind of numbers that they should be doing. I mean, Forbidden Door, and for you people who want to take a look at this kind of stuff out there, not only do we put ourselves over here, Uribe way more than I do, but we also put over other things. You could check out at WrestleTix on Twitter, and you could get all the accurate ticket information in regards to wrestling shows coming up. But Forbidden Door, I mean, they're like 12,000 tickets already. That's what they distributed. I mean, 12,000 tickets. They should be doing 20,000, man. They should be doing a lot more. They should be filling up a lot more of these buildings, and it's a fucking problem now.
And Patrick, mind you, the Scotiabank Arena, Toronto, is actually one of the bigger NBA/NHL arenas in North America. I was actually looking this up, though. That, Scotiabank Arena, along with the United Center, along with T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. They're one of the bigger buildings. Like, I know it looks big for the most part, but like Prudential Center by us here in Newark only holds about maybe 14, 15 and change for wrestling. I know that for hockey it's a little bit bigger, but bro, like it's about 15 and change, let's say, at Prudential Center for pro wrestling. Even when WWE is there, and you know that's going to sell out when WWE is there, but that's like 15 and change. But for arenas not called Madison Square Garden, I mean, again, Scotiabank Arena in Toronto is one of the bigger ones in North America. So that's alarming right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And again, I think it's just a testament to the fact that the interest, the buzz has kind of died down, you know? There's no reason why they couldn't have a better product, man. There really isn't, you know? And again, maybe he wants to just keep it an indie product. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he just wants to keep it indie wrestling on, you know, on national TV. Maybe that's what he wants to do. But with the amount of talent that you're signing, the amount of money that you're paying this talent, you kind of want to maximize that return, man. You know, you kind of want to get something back here. And I feel like he's not getting everything back that he can get. And a lot of it has to do with what he's been booking lately. Now, from what I know, he's handed over the reins for booking, other than final say, to Jerry Lynn and I believe Prince Nana for Ring of Honor. So they're booking Ring of Honor now. So now he's starting to let up some of the stuff that he's doing. I guess all the other AEW stuff he's still booking. But even with Forbidden Door, right, they're going to be, you know, 12,000 tickets, bro. Come on, man. That's not good for a place like that when you could get 20,000, you know? Wembley, we don't know what the fucking numbers are. So far, they're saying 65,000. WrestleTix is saying 65,000 tickets distributed. Now, again, a lot of these could be ticket brokers. A lot of these could be whatever. What was that? Jeez, I felt like I ate a mushroom and it grew or something. You know, I should be a lot bigger right now. But I just think that it's going to end up being the lower bowl. I think they might get a couple of VIP hospitality suites because, you know, that's a part of the shtick. You know, that's the gimmick. But I see Wembley really covering up a lot of the top and just keeping that first bowl and just kind of just making it big. I think they should kind of downsize maybe on the stage, you know, and just kind of keep it simple to pack in as many people as they can. You know,
surprise, motherfucker.
R.I.P. Sergeant Dokes.
But Patrick, also too, I think if we learn anything, let's say for example, last summer, if for SummerSlam, I think that there was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a part of Nissan Stadium in Nashville, not the Upper Bowl, but I think there was a part of Nissan Stadium that was kind of tapered off. Remember, it wasn't completely sold out. It was
the hard camera side.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous and expected attendance. It was at SummerSlam.
Right. It was good, but it's not. They didn't sell out the whole fucking place like they could have, man. And a lot of variables were there to consider. Yeah.
I mean, Patrick, but also too, I think, and there's another element to it. Despite that, it's catered to a niche audience. I get all that. But case in point, bro, like looking at, again, I actually say this in my notes here, looking at, Collision here coming up in July, like Patrick, like I hate to tell people this, but like I'm someone that like I don't mind spending a little bit of money when I go out for events, right? Like, when we go watch Devils, we talk about going to Yankees.
You're not cheap, Uribe. Contrary to popular belief, you are not cheap, okay?
No. I like cheap heat, but I'm not cheap when it comes to how I spend money. But I'm looking at the building here and I'm just like, wait, what? Like, we're talking about like $75, $80-something tickets. And I'm just like, what? It's not even floor seats. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. Hold the phone. How is this even possible? And I think it also kind of lends itself to, again, I don't want to sort of lump them into what July is going to be for the SmackDown in Madison Square Garden. But, bro, I hate to break it to people. Pro wrestling, like a lot of forms of entertainment, going to the theater, going to even catch an off-Broadway musical in New York City. I just think elements about entertainment and I think things like that, they're just becoming more expensive. And I just think it's, again, people are going to pay. There are people that are going to pay them. Ticket brokers know that. And even at worst case scenario, you have Game Time, the Game Time app, where an hour or two before the show, you can go on there and you can get tickets. And because we've seen it during Devils games, for example, like we buy them on TickPick and they're reasonably priced because there's no fee. And by the way, folks, TickPick.com, no fees whatsoever. But like even on game time, like you can still
endorse us, TickPick. Come on, man.
That's right, exactly. Actually, you know what?
What the fuck was that?
I'm gonna shoot him a tweet tonight for sure. But this is the thing. It's like, bro, like everything else, pro wrestling's becoming a little more expensive. Like just look at the numbers for SummerSlam. Yes, it's sold out in Detroit at Ford Field, but bro, you look at TickPick and you look at what's still available because obviously it's all brokers. I don't know, man. It's still out of reach for a lot of people. And I think even AEW is falling into that trap, and they're not in a position to do that.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'd like to say that I'm eating popcorn, not because I'm trying to be rude, but this darn show is just too compelling. I mean, I'm just here with my popcorn listening to what's going on. And I suggest that everybody else follow us if you haven't, or if you're watching us for the first time out there. I definitely think that things have gotten more expensive, and wrestling is definitely one of those things. At first, a lot of people were saying how AEW is going to be kind of cheaper than WWE, but now they're really not. And maybe that's a way for them to make up for, losing out on money from, maybe not getting the kind of interest that they should be getting. Who knows? But yeah, all in all, man, I mean, it's not particularly affordable, man. I mean, WWE, you got to get it while you can. MSG, $80, $90, man. You're at the top of the first bowl there, the lower bowl. And MSG, that's a great view,
Case in point, you mentioned about that dollar amount. You look at the layout of Prudential Center on TickPick, and right now the floor layout is coming soon. That's still not available. Yeah, it's a month away, so I guess they'll cater to that eventually. But just looking at the lower bowl, section 10, for example, $83, Raw 18. Section 1, which is kind of diagonal from the ring in the lower bowl, $69. Section 17, sort of hard camera area, lower bowl, $95. What?
Man.
Collision at Prudential Center? If you're telling me, hey, Fernando, first 2 or 3 rows at Collision where I can go wear my Cornette shirt or like other shirts I'd like to wear when I go out, T-shirts, I mean, okay, I'll spend $83 if it's front row. But bro, section 10, like the lower bowl, those aren't even floor seats. That's unacceptable. And for a company that needs to make the product more appealing and more affordable, because WWE is WWE. You get it. Hey, if you're not willing to pay, Patrick, for you and your 2 beautiful children to go watch SmackDown at Madison Square Garden, they know somebody else will pay it. That's it. They know. They
Absolutely.
They know that there are going to be people, there are going to be consumers that will buy it. That's fine. Yeah. Because they're the top of the food chain. AEW can't have that sort of smug, arrogant, sort of condescension of like, oh, well, people are going to come. No, they're not. Not at $83 when you're in section 10 in the lower bowl.
No, not at all. And with WWE, they do a lot of the family 4-packs, right? So you'll get like 4 tickets for like $40 or $60, and you're like in the lower part of the upper level, but the idea with those kind of tickets and those kind of deals is to get people in there so that we spend money on gimmicks. Because that's what they want us to do. They want us to buy the new John Cena T-shirt or the new Roman Reigns T-shirt or the whatever city you're in 316 T-shirt that they have available. Sami Zayn, Becky Lynch, all these other big stars that are in the company. That's what they want you to do. So that's why they do the family 4-pack. I'm sure Tony Khan has some kind of deal. I'm sure he does something like that. But I mean, again, Tony Khan isn't really catering to families so much. Tony Khan is catering to the marks. And a lot of these people, they're incels, a lot of them, don't have any sex life outside of their hands. And, they're going to want to spend that money to go.
Or OnlyFans at the subscriptions.
Or OnlyFans, whatever, which is perfectly fine. I think all that stuff is good, Hey, man, people got repressed issues. That's fine. If you want to go and pay some chick to talk to you, make you feel like she's your fucking girlfriend, great. Don't fucking kill nobody. We're good, At least he ain't eating nobody, At least he's not doing some fucking vile shit. Whatever, he's got his fucking subscription. But a lot of these people, they live for this shit. And they're going to pay those fucking $80 to fucking be there. And that's the demo that he wants to get. That's the key demo, And that's what he's catering to. So these guys, they're willing to pay that stuff. They might even pay even more. They're going to go there. They're going to buy fucking gimmicks. They're going to do everything that they got to do because they fucking love it, So that's fine that he's catering to them. And I'm sure he's going to do well in that sense and with the merch. But you're not growing your fucking product. You're not making it what it could be for the amount of money that you're investing in it.
I agree, and I think it's something to keep an eye out for because, as I said, as the summer's coming, we have Forbidden Door at the end of this month. We have the premiere of Collision. We have, and also too, I think looking at a lot of the shows in Canada for the better part of June into early July. Pretty much, I mean, they're going to be in Canada for the better part of next week up until probably the week after 4th of July. And then they'll return to the States here for Collision on that Saturday night at Prudential Center. Again, we haven't seen any of the shows advertised after Prudential Center coming up on July the 17th. But these ticket sales are concerned, man. I think to your point, Tony Khan once again is showing that he's oblivious to what works from a business perspective. Yes, you want to scratch the belly of the marks and that audience that loves the 27 Canadian destroyers, that loves the guy walking the top rope on a tightrope, as they say, and then doing a hurricanrana and bleeding and this and that. But like, I think you have to keep it simple. Go back to the basics, and I hate to sort of evoke the territory things, the territory days, but why did those territories work for as long as they did? They knew an audience. They catered to families and made it family friendly and affordable. Again, whether or not you like the wrestling or the booking or whatever, that's irrelevant. What I'm saying is that the business model worked for as long as it did because they understood, hey, we understand our audience. We understand we want to make some money. Sure, we can milk some people, but let's take advantage and let's maximize our potential in this market. And I think so too, where here's another thing that people aren't talking about. AEW is spending a lot of time in the Northeast for the better part of the summer. Not just only their Death Before Dishonor show for Ring of Honor, but also too, like all these Collision shows. Yeah, they're going to Canada. They're going to Northwest Canada. They're going to the wrestling capital of the world, Calgary, Alberta.
What?
And also Saskatoon.
No. Hold on a second, bro. You said that already on the show. I kind of let it slide. You had to bring it up again. That's ridiculous, okay?
No,
everybody knows that the wrestling capital of the world is Stamford, Connecticut.
That's
okay?
Right.
Everybody knows that.
That's right. But again, other than a couple of stops in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, they're spending a lot of time in the Northeast. And I just think that, I don't know, I don't claim to have all the answers, even though I play that role on TV. It just seems from this perspective for him, you got to branch out, man, some different markets. And I get they were in Colorado this past week for Dynamite. They were on the West Coast a little bit, leading up to Double or Nothing, after Double or Nothing. Bro, go to the South, go to the Midwest more. Again, it just seems like you're kind of cutting your nose to spite your face, Patrick. And Tony Khan just doesn't seem to get it. And unfortunately, he may never will.
Well, I'm going to say this while I light this Palo Santo. I'm going to say that the biggest problem for me with AEW and a lot of like modern wrestling in general is that like nothing means nothing. You know what I'm saying? Nothing means nothing. And, it's okay that you want to do the fucking Canadian Destroyer. It's okay that you want to do all that stuff. It's okay you want to do the super kicks and all that stuff. But make all that shit mean something. Hit a Canadian Destroyer and actually fucking sell it. Take a DDT on the outside and actually fucking sell it. Build up a fucking count, like so that there's some suspense for you to get back in the ring and get in that match. Tell a fucking story. Make your shit fucking count. Instead of just doing all these fucking moves, just to do all these fucking moves, sell. And, you talk about the territories, but that was a big part of the territories, man. Selling, protecting fucking moves, making things fucking matter. You don't have to do a lot in that ring to get people's attention, okay? Wrestling is about the moves, absolutely. It's about the athleticism. It's about the technique. It's about being able to get in there and fucking deliver in the ring. But the biggest thing that wrestling is predicated on is emotion. You are working people. You are working their emotions. You're getting them pissed off. You're getting them happy. You're getting them excited. You're getting them fucking crazy. Whatever the fuck you want to get them, bro. Any emotion that you can fucking think of, that's what you're fucking giving people, okay, with wrestling. And that's what you should be doing every time you're out there. And the fact that they don't make things mean more than what they fucking should is a huge fucking problem. Huge fucking problem. And that's something that I think that holds them back tremendously.
I agree. Pat, we're about to wrap up here for the week. For our audience, obviously, we always like to be a little introspective and illustrative here. On this day, June 11th, in pro wrestling history, and here's taking it way back, Patrick. On this day in 1879, in Boston, Massachusetts, Henry DeFord defeated James Owens to win the American Collar and Elbow Championship.
Nice.
On this day in 1993, at the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Show in Knoxville, Tennessee, Tracy Smothers defeated the Dirty White Boy. Not to be confused with a lot of guys walking around Burgerline or Weehawken, for example, to win the vacant Smoky Mountain Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Also in 1998, at IWA, Mississippi was in Louisville, Kentucky, as Mike Sensation defeated both Blaze and Harry Palmer in a triple threat match for the IWA Mississippi Light Heavyweight title. Here's something interesting, which is we all know was the closing days and the demise of WCW. The Great American Bash pay-per-view was held in Baltimore in front of 7,000 fans. One of the triple main event, Ric Flair defeated David Flair following an interference from the now deceased Reed Flair, God rest his soul, and Ashley Flair, now known as Charlotte Flair.
Woo!
Had Ric Flair lost, he would have had to it was a triple main event. Vampiro defeated Sting in the first ever Human Torch match. Your opponent on fire. And in the third part of the triple main event, Jeff Jarrett defeated Kevin Nash to retain the WCW World Heavyweight title. Also, a very significant show. In 2006, WWE presented ECW's One Night Stand at the Hammerstein Ballroom in front of 2,400 fans. Obviously, it was the first official revival of the ECW brand since the bankruptcy of the company in early 2001, since Paul Heyman didn't know how to fucking manage books and everything else. In the main event, which is still very historic, Rob Van Dam, having just won Money in the Bank, cashed in his opportunity against John Cena. And by the way, bro, folks, if you haven't had a chance to watch that match, go to Peacock, endure the 70,000 ads to watch the match itself. But that match was as unbelievably produced as you could possibly can. And the heat that John Cena had walking into that building, bro, that was epic.
Wins we riot.
Yes, it was amazing. With thankfully Edge hitting the spear. Obviously, the referee was knocked out. Paul Heyman came down since he was the authority figure, counted the three after the five-star frog splash. Rob Van Dam became the WWE champion. He would lose it a few weeks later due to some failed drug tests, unfortunately. But an historic day, though, folks, there in 2006. And on this day in 2007, on an episode of Monday Night Raw called Mr. McMahon Appreciation Night, the night was conceived of cheering up Mr. McMahon after losing the ECW championship to Bobby Lashley. After Raw went off the air, as Raw was going off the air, McMahon was seen walking to his limo, getting inside, and the limo would subsequently explode. On WWE.com, it was reported that Mr. McMahon died. The next day, press release was announced, making it obvious that it was a storyline, which angered a lot of people. The angle was obviously canceled just a couple of weeks later due to the very real death of Chris Benoit and that murder, suicide tragedy, which would happen later on in 2007. Folks, all of that good stuff happened on this day, June 11th, in pro wrestling history. Pat, what we got coming up for you, brother?
I think we need a Vince McMahon appreciation year. All right. Vince McMahon appreciation decade. Okay. All you ungrateful, unworthy marks need to stop slandering the name of the GOAT, Vince McMahon. Okay. And I think you need to put some respect on his name. All right. I don't really got much going on. I got that show coming out. You're going to be seeing a flyer here somewhere circulating in our social media and stuff like that once that's made available. But one thing I can say is keep an eye out for Johnny's Club. And I hope you have a great night. Thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for supporting the show. We didn't get any questions this week. Hopefully we get some next week. And always a pleasure to be able to be here with you folks on Working the Marks. That doesn't mean that I want to be friends with any of you, so please don't send me any friend requests. Don't do anything like that. I'm a jerk. I just pretend to play a nice guy on this fucking shtick here. So,
folks, he is. I know this firsthand. He shits on me every day, so I know this firsthand. So.
That's not even what it is. There's that victim mentality.
Acknowledge me.
Anyways, take it fucking handy, guys, and I'll be seeing y'all soon, man. Appreciate you. Now you can plug your political gimmick, right?
I'll tell you, folks, tomorrow night on Real Talk, tune in to Jersey First TV as the editor of the Jersey City Times, Aaron Murrill, will join me for a lot of what's going on right now in Jersey City. Certainly, Mayor Phillips' gubernatorial campaign is well underway. The city council in Jersey City will be voting this week effectively on a ordinance to allow the right to counsel, to allow, obviously, residents who are looking to get evicted by their landlords. Obviously, we all know what's going on with rent hikes in Jersey City, all throughout the city. Right to counsel, obviously, is going to be voted on this week. We'll talk about, obviously, what's going on in Hudson County politics and much more, folks. Tune in tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Eastern Time for the latest edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, I can't thank you enough for joining us here on Famcast Media. And certainly, we can't say enough about the amazing job that our executive producer, D. Rotten, won't give out his legal name, but the amazing job he does every week to produce this show. Obviously, you start a little bit later than usual, obviously due to my tia Alicia, my aunt from Colombia visiting. God bless her. Happy birthday to her. Check out Noches de Colombia in Hackensack. They have the fucking hottest, waitresses you'll ever see. My God. If you need a reason to get married and marry a Colombian woman, just go there. My God. But in any event, folks, in all seriousness, happy birthday to her. Great restaurant, great service there in Hackensack at the Noches de Colombia on Route 46 in South Hackensack there in Bergen County. Folks, sharing is caring. Just takes 2 seconds. Click that share button and share Working the Marks with all of your fans and friends on your social media news. Please make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And without a doubt, folks, if you're thinking about it when it comes to pro wrestling, we're talking about it. And of course, he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, the PBR superstar, the notorious, the glorious, the dubious Patrick Vincent Rivera. And I am New Jersey's most handsome award-winning journalist, Fernando Uribe. Folks, we'll see you next Sunday here on a special Father's Day edition of Working the Marks. Folks, stay well. And don't forget, you can't be good, be bad, baby. We'll see you next week here on Working the Marks here on Facebook Live via StreamYard. Good night, everybody.
Famcast Media.